Hi, everyone. It's Carrie Donegan. Welcome to Radical Age Reversal. We are going to bring in our win-win women audience now. It's so good to have everybody here today. We're getting to the end of this book. I have to say, it's a little bit sad for me, but I am so glad that you're here to finish it with me. Here we go. We have two more episodes left. Welcome to our Win-Win Women audience. I'm Carrie Donegan, and this is Radical Age Reversal, where we talk about not only aging gracefully, but slowing down the aging process so that you can live your best years with your most healthy state. And of course, the promises we make to ourselves today will determine our future self. So when your future self looks back at you, you have to ask yourself, did I keep the promises I made today to my future self? And hopefully you have. Hopefully you've learned a lot during our many episodes. Hopefully, you will find value in everything that is shared on this program today. It is given from my heart and it is given freely with no expectations of anything in return. I do share my most beloved health tool, which is essential oils. And today I want to share with you my most beloved oil, and that is rose essential oil. Now, for many people, this may seem like something that's unattainable. How could I possibly acquire a bottle of rose essential oil? Now, rose essential oil, for those of you who are familiar with it, it's very expensive. So for 5 milliliters of oil, this is over 300 US dollars. And that may seem absolutely insane. But for anyone who's ever bought a diamond, for anyone who's ever bought a pearl or gold or had to spend money on life-saving surgery, whatever it is that is so incredibly expensive, we know that behind that is something really valuable and something very precious. And of all of the resources that I have found in this world, essential oils contain some of the most economical, versatile, and effective and safe modalities that we possibly can use on our health. To me, it is the true secret to what we all are missing. It kind of fills in the gaps, just like a vitamin would fill in the gaps in your nutrition. Use a rose roll on, which has already been diluted and is much less expensive. This is pure rose essential oil. Now, one of the things you may not know about rose oil is that if it sits around for a long time or if it gets a little bit cold, it goes back to its natural state, which is a bit of a jelly. And so all you need to do to turn it back into a liquid is to take it between your hands and just kind of warm it up. Whoops. So you're going to rub it between your hands like this. And then you can just smell it from the bottle. It's very, very concentrated. It's super strong. And when Johns Hopkins University Medical Center did research for doTERRA on all of our essential oils, and they tested them against different pathogens, against different diseases, against different body systems, and what would really help the most. The oil that came on top was rose essential oil. Now, you can actually take a drop and put it on. I rarely do this. So this is a very special day for me. Indeed, I probably won't wash my hands all day. No, I'm kidding. Now that I have this precious oil on me, but it is just divine. And, there's probably perfumes in the world far more expensive. I don't think you're going to get one that's going to give you this much health. Now, when you think of rose, one of the things you may think of is love, right? Red roses have been sort of a time honored symbol of deep, romantic, loving affection from a man to a woman, right? We give roses on Valentine's Day. Roses fill the air. It's also from a religious standpoint, roses represent the Virgin Mary and the miracles of Guadalupe and just so many really amazing things about roses. And if you go into other cultures, you're going to see lore and stories and allegories about roses that just abound. I have planted my first roses ever in my lifetime this year, and it's called a knockout rose. I heard that it will do the best in the climate that I'm in right now, and they're doing beautifully. And I go out and I see them, and I haven't cut any of them because I'm just enjoying the fact that they are living in their natural state. And I think it's important for us to live that way too. Don't cut yourself short. Don't try to encapsulize different parts of your life. Just live in the environment for which you're in and do the best you can every day for yourself. Now, let's talk a little about resources because that's today's topic. And it's all going to tie in a minute between roses and love. But when we talk about resources, a lot of times there's a sense of scarcity. So, and that can be very damaging to your health, especially when fear is involved. And so, tomorrow is actually tax filing day for a lot of us. And there can, for me especially, there can be a lot of fear around it. You know, am I going to have enough money? Did I do it the right way? It's always been an anxiety point for me. Maybe this is something that you can relate to. But I have to say that we often think of it in a scarcity mindset, right? There's like only one option and there's only one solution, and everything else is dark and terrible. And I think that's the difference between people who operate on a higher level, those people who live in optimism and possibility, in the idea of multiple ways of looking at something, different solutions. I think it's a very, very healthy attitude. So when you find yourself in this moment of locked in, right? There's only one solution. There can't be another way to do this. Everything is hopeless. That's not the truth. All right? That's not the truth because there are many paths that can lead to the same solution. That is a truth. And so we must get ourselves out of that lock of lack. So, okay, so you got to open up the lock and see yourself as living in an environment of multiple opportunities and multiple possibilities. So that bears back to this question of resources. You know, what do we do when resources run short, whether it's money, whether it's food, whether it's shelter, you know, transportation? There are all kinds of things that can run short in your life. Okay. Which resources don't ever run short in your life? And I remember my grandfather, who was very big on education, said to me, always educate yourself. The more education you have, the more tools you have, the more skills that you have. Constantly read, constantly learn, constantly grow. And I feel like I really embraced that. I also feel like my kids have embraced that. I believe I married a man who embraces the same concept. And it's really served us well in our lifetime. Has every decision we've made been perfect? Absolutely not. That's not going to happen. But the more education you have, the more knowledge base you have, the more tools you have to make really, really good choices. But you can lose your memory. You can lose your aptitude, right? So, education, although no one can quote unquote take it away from you once you have it, you know, it is something that your physical health can degrade to the point where that knowledge either cannot be implemented or that knowledge is not retained. And so in the last chapter, you're going to hear from Dr. Daniel Amen, and he's going to talk about how we maintain and retain that information. But it is a resource that is fragile because of our human frailty. And again, we're in the book 30% Happier in 30 Days by Daniel Amen. I should have said this at the beginning of the show, but I was just so excited to get into this topic of what is that resource that never runs out? And the resource that never runs out is love. You can love as many people as you want in different ways. You know, we know that there are different types of love, and the English language is a little bit tricky because, like, the love that you have for a friend is also going to be the same word that you're going to use for the love of a child, the love of a spouse, the love of a hobby, the love of a sport, the love of a piece of clothing, whatever it is. So it kind of makes everything sound a little bit the same, But we know that that's not true. So, the love that I have for my tea every day is not the same love as I have for my children. So it's not the same love that I have for my husband. It's a different type of love. But in other languages, there are special words for different types of love. But even though there are different types of love, love is a concept. This is what I do love about the English language. Love, in and of itself, is a resource that's always available and never runs out. The more you give it, the more you have, the more you continue to give, right? You're never going to run out of love. It doesn't ever have a bottom. So keep that in mind when you're living your life. If I have nothing else today, if I have no energy, if I have no health, if I've lost my physical abilities, even if I've lost some of my mental capacities, maybe I'm in an anxiety attack, maybe I'm in a moment of panic, maybe I'm living in a state of depression, maybe I've lost a job or a loved one. All of those things could be things that have been taken away. But when you have to look at what remains, and what remains is your ability to love. And your ability to love is a choice. And although I don't want my program to ever be political, one of the things I do want to share as we approach this election in the United States is that if we each enter into dialogue with the gift of love, love for the other person, love for them as a human being, whether we agree or not. If we can possess and we can stay in that state of love and respect, we will be able to find points of intersection. We will be able to find points of common understanding. And all of that comes from love. But let's dive into the book and see what Dr. Amen has to say about love and longevity. Love, your secret weapon. This is on page 161 for those of you who hopefully have the book by now as we're coming to the end. He said, when Jesus told us to love each other as ourselves, he was giving us a good health advice. Research suggests that whenever you feel down, anxious, or angry, it is best to get out of yourself and change your state of mind. In a new study, people who wrote about gratitude activated a part of their brains involved in the happiness and altruism. That said, if you want to feel better, go in aid of someone who needs help. According to the New York Times story, in the 1970s, former First Lady Barbara Bush became so depressed that she sometimes stopped her car on the side of the road for fear that she might deliberately crash the vehicle into a tree or an oncoming car. Mrs. Bush did not seek psychiatric help or medication for her depression, which she blamed on the hormonal changes of menopause and the stress of her husband's job as the director of the CIA. Instead, she said she treated her depression by immersing herself in volunteer work and getting outside to help others. Being loving to strangers or even to people you know has the added benefit of making you feel happier. According to two studies, in one study, 86% participants divided into three groups. 86 participants were asked about their life satisfaction and then divided into three groups. The first group was told to do an act of kindness every day for 10 days. And the second group was told to do something new every day for 10 days. And the third group was given no instruction. When the 10 days had passed, the groups were retested on life satisfaction. Levels of happiness increased significantly and nearly equally among participants in the groups that had performed acts of kindness or novel activities, while happiness didn't change at all in the group that did neither. Doing something for others for 10 days, especially if you vary the good deeds, is an effective way to make yourself feel better, the study suggests. In another study, participants were divided into two groups and asked to recall either the last time they spent either $20 or $100 on themselves, or the last time they had spent the same amount of money on someone else. After completing a scale measuring their levels of happiness, all the participants were provided with a small sum of money and given the option to spend the money on themselves or another person. The researchers found that the study subjects were happier when they were asked to recall a time when they had purchased something for someone else, no matter the price of the gift. What's more, the happier they felt about being generous in the past, the greater the likelihood they would spend the money on someone besides themselves. As the Bible states, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Finally, research shows that the happiest people are outward facing, focusing more on the people they serve than on themselves. Even though the paper attributed, even though the prayer attributed to St. Francis of Assisi was likely not written by him, it still provides a research-based guide to happiness. The next time you feel stressed, consider repeating it or any other similar prayer or meditation, such as the loving kindness meditation. Here is the prayer for peace from St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. By consciously bringing your attention to what you are grateful for, the people who bring you joy, and your own successes, you'll see a decrease in worry, anxiety, anger, and negativity, and be on your way to feeling happier. I love that. So next week we are on chapter 30, and we are coming to the close of our book. Next week, I will give you a preview of the next series that we're going to do here on Radical Age Reversal. And until then, I wish you rosy days filled with love. And instead of waiting for love to come to you, go out and love someone else. I'll see you next week, and God bless.